be the next big thing in video games. A revolution for the next generation, just as he delivered so many times before. Releasing a few weeks after the GameCube's launch, Pikmin was met with adoration from critics and fans alike. IGN gave it a 91, Game Informer a 93, and Nintendo Power gave it a perfect 100. But for some reason, people just weren't buying it. It barely scratched a
Save your money. Own your media. Play your way. Build your catalog.
We, the Wanted. Azzaro Forever Wanted, the new elixir.
million copies sold, and its sequel sold even less, despite earning even higher review scores. Simply put, the series was a flop by Miyamoto standards. Super Mario Sunshine suffered a similar fate too. It only sold half the numbers of its predecessor, and when the next Zelda game released a year later, it sold so poorly that its director, Eiji Aonuma, said it, quote, could mean the end of the franchise. The GameCube itself wasn't doing too hot either. It was getting outsold 7-1 by the rivals at Sony. The press began to wonder if Nintendo would succumb to the same fate Sega suffered a few years earlier, exiting the console business to focus exclusively on software. Financially, it was the darkest period in Nintendo's history since Miyamoto's rapid ascent 2 decades prior. But for Miyamoto and Nintendo both, it was darkest before the dawn. He was in his 50s now, and unlike his younger days, he wasn't just making games for children around the world. Now his own kids were old enough to play them, and he took a hard stance on how much they could play. He told his kids that the home consoles belonged to him. He owned them, and he'd only allow them to rent the consoles for a few hours at a time. Watching them play his games, and sometimes even letting them playtest his prototypes, he started to think about how he could appeal to less experienced gamers, and a wider audience in general. He told his friend Shigesato Itoi, I want to make something where 80 to 90% of consumers can make it to the end, even if that means we have to risk that players who make it that far lose some of that feeling of challenge or achievement. Miyamoto was worried that modern games were only drawing in people who were already gamers, when what he really wanted to do was make gamers out of ordinary people. In other words, if Nintendo's slice of the gaming pie was getting smaller, then the pie itself needed to get a whole lot bigger. As Nintendo began working on their next console, the Wii, Miyamoto took charge of its revolutionary controller and played a key role in the pack-in title that eventually became Wii Sports. Now approaching 60, he was weighing himself daily, exercising, and making charts to track his performance, a routine he decided to make into a game called Wii Fit, which exploded in popularity with casuals and non-gamers, and it became a huge system seller. Nintendo released their new handheld, the DS, around the same time, so Miyamoto targeted casuals with another aspect of his personal life. He's actually a semi-professional dog breeder, and his family pet was a sheepdog named Piku. So he combined it with ideas from the long-abandoned Cabbage game to make Nintendogs, which went on to become the second best-selling DS game. The number one selling game, of course, was the new Super Mario Bros. Reboot. There was one Miyamoto hobby that didn't garner rave reviews and a giant pile of money, but we won't dwell on it. Both the DS and the Wii were incredibly successful at tapping into the casual market that Miyamoto was targeting, though he never forgot his core audience. The Wii's biggest launch title, The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, garnered review scores of around 96% and more than double the sales of Wind Waker. It even managed to outsell Ocarina of Time, an achievement that possibly saved the series from extinction. Not to be outdone, Super Mario Galaxy burst onto the scene a year later, with review scores of 97%, doubling Sunshine sales and stealing the crown from Mario 64. Miyamoto was back on top, but he had a lot more help this generation than he had previously. By now, he'd been promoted to Senior Managing Director, more like a supervisor than a hands-on director. He became infamous for what his colleagues described as flipping the tea table. If he didn't like what he was seeing mid or even late development, he'd order his subordinates to completely rework major concepts, sometimes so drastically that games could get delayed a year or more. Miyamoto's table flipping instilled a lot of anxiety in his developers, but with sales records breaking left and right, it was hard to argue with the results. However, all good things must come to an end, and by the Wii era's closing, it seemed Miyamoto already had one foot in retirement. In 2011, he went on Japanese TV revealing he wasn't long from parting the industry, saying, "Honestly, I think seriously about what to do as I step away. When I want, I'm able to step back and pretend I'm not there, making sure not to butt in with my opinion, for instance. Although sometimes I can't help myself. I think the closer I get to 60, the easier it's been for me to pull away. Of course, I still have 5 years left." A month later, the then 59-year-old Miyamoto told Wired, "Inside our office, I've been recently declaring, I'm gonna retire. I'm not saying that I'm going to retire from game development altogether. What I mean by retiring is retiring from my current position." The next day, Nintendo stock plunged $500 million, prompting the company to release a statement saying, "Actually, Miyamoto wasn't going anywhere, and his role wasn't changing one iota either." But despite their assurances, it was clear to anybody paying attention that wasn't entirely true. His Mario co-director, Takashi Tezuka, had started a Mario Cram School to teach Nintendo's younger generation of developers how to make Mario games. And in the years that followed, Miyamoto continued to make no secret of the fact that he was passing the torch on both hardware and software as he phased himself out of the equation. His name still graced the credits of Mario 3D World, A Link Between Worlds, Star Fox Guard, and many more first-party games as a general producer, but he wasn't as intimately involved as he was in his younger days. In 2015, his title was changed to Fellow at Nintendo, and much of his attention turned to other projects, like a Super Mario movie, the Super Nintendo World theme park, and spending more time with his family, playing the guitar, and walking his dogs. Miyamoto celebrated his 71st birthday last year, and there's no question he's left a huge legacy since Donkey Kong. The Japanese government honored him with the Person of Cultural Merit Award.
Good, thank you.
GDC gave him the Lifetime Achievement Award, and the French government made him a knight. He recently told the New Yorker, "It's taken about 10 years, but I feel that the younger generation here is now fully capable. We are moving toward a position that will ensure the spirit of Nintendo is passed down successfully. I'm not concerned about that anymore." We hope he's right, and whatever the future holds for you, Mr. Miyamoto, we wish you all the best. You've left a huge impact on Nintendo, the industry, and an entire generation of people that play video games, us included. Running around Bob-omb Battlefield, catching all 151 Pokemon, sailing the Great Sea. Your imagination defined our childhoods, and now that we're all grown up, it has defined our careers. So long, Miyamoto-san, and thanks for all the games. Did you also know that Did You Know Gaming is making an actual game that tests your video game knowledge, and that you can play right now?
Nothing much. I'm just
on screen.
sketching.
And, hi, my name is James. I hope my voiceover was okay. I hope it wasn't terrible. I have a YouTube channel called Nitro Rad where I review 3D platformers, sometimes horror games or weird indie games, or I don't know, whatever I feel like. Special thanks to our translator Jacob and Sprite Cell for consultation. And of course, thank you for watching. See you next time.
I'm just rough sketching right now.
I'm here to save you. Like you're here to save me.
Bright, sunshiny day.
Okay, we are about to create the brand new game of...
Did you know one of the earliest Mario games that never left Japan is Mario World? No, not Super Mario World, just...
Did you know? Pokemon Diamond and Pearl were planned to be the ultimate Pokemon games. To unite Game Freak behind this concept, director Junichi Masuda made a summary outlining the philosophy and attitude he wanted for the new games. In an excerpt published on his blog, Masuda describes the game's world as the world of tomorrow, the world of the distant future, an ideal world, also an ultimate world. Masuda summarized his hopes for the game with two symbols, a diamond as a symbol of love, and a pearl as a symbol of happiness. Masuda wanted people from all over the world to come together, and made this a reality with the Global Trade Station. For the first time in the series' history, players were able to trade Pokemon online. Pokemon Diamond and Pearl had many firsts for the series, such as 3D technology. Deciding how to implement 3D visuals took Game Freak a long time, as they wanted to ensure this new approach worked with Pokemon's art style. While the team tried to create the best-looking visuals they could using the hardware, they were also concerned about accessibility. They wanted players to understand the game easily. Like in previous Pokemon games, the overworld was based on tiles so that players can easily navigate the world. Diamond and Pearl were also the first games in the main Pokemon series to use touchscreen inputs. The lower screen's interface was carefully considered and designed to be used without a stylus. The first time Masuda saw Shigeru Miyamoto using a stylus on a prototype DS, he was struck by how unnecessary it seemed. He reasoned that people should only need a stylus in two scenarios, when the screen is too small or when the user needs to manipulate small objects. He felt that touching the screen directly was a lot more intuitive, and that it didn't make sense to call it a touch screen otherwise. When he suggested the game be played using the player's finger, Masuda was met with resistance. Game Freak staff feared the screen would become smudged and dirty. Masuda argued that children were unlikely to care how dirty their console was, and that the obsession with cleanliness was a Japanese mindset. He even took pictures of people playing the DS using their fingers. Little by little, Game Freak came around to his way of thinking. Graphically, Takao Uno was unsure about using his thumb to touch the DS's screen at first, but over time, changes to the UI reduced those fears. The options on the lower screen were all color-coded and made extremely large so the player could make selections without taking their eyes off the top screen. The big bold buttons also made it easier for young children to play the games, as they may not have learned to read yet. The fight command was made especially large, with the Pokemon's 4 moves hidden behind it. The commands were laid out this way so that players would need to move their finger as little as possible when choosing their attack. Another priority for designers was to help attract new people to Pokemon. Nintendo's strategy with the DS was to broaden the console's appeal to include casual gamers. President and CEO of the Pokemon Company, Tsunekazu Ishihara, welcomed the approach. He felt that it was a perfect fit for Pokemon, a series designed with younger children in mind. The UI on the lower screen was designed to draw attention and pique the curiosity of people nearby. Masuda imagined the ease of use could draw people closer together. A grandfather may lean over his grandchild's shoulder to touch the screen, and while the child may be annoyed at first, it may create conversation between the two. The Sinnoh region where Diamond and Pearl takes place is based on Hokkaido, the northernmost island of Japan. Snowy areas were added to make the setting feel more northern than previous generations. The day and night cycle returned from Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal to take advantage of hardware improvements on the DS. The DS has an internal clock and was able to display hundreds of times more colors than the Game Boy Advance, making a night and day cycle a natural fit. One mechanic which Game Freak reconsidered was the physical and special stat split. In the first 3 generations of Pokemon, all attacks of a certain type were either physical or special. For example, all fighting-type moves were physical, while all water-type moves were special. This meant that Pokemon like Gyarados, a water-type with a high physical attack, was unable to reach its full potential. Diamond and Pearl instead split moves into physical or special categories based on their context. Game Freak's efforts paid off, as the release of Diamond and Pearl saw a surge in popularity of competitive Pokemon. In 2009, the Pokemon Company even began hosting the Video Game Championships, a competition that saw champions from a number of local.
Hey, this is Michael, the developer behind Rooftops and Alleys, an extreme sports game about parkour and free-running, and well, smashing your head face first into the next best steel beam you can find. First of all, parkour and free-running are not quite the same. While one focuses more on getting from A to B in the fastest way possible, the other is all about style, flow, and tricking madness. Rooftops and Alleys merges both into one to create an exciting and engaging gameplay experience for players in solo and multiplayer. The game is easy to pick up, but hard to master, so stay strong as you jump headfirst into the progression system and its challenges spread throughout the different maps. Whether you throw yourself into time trials or trick challenges, you will quickly improve your skill level to perform the craziest lines in the 6 different maps available at launch. Each map has its unique style, environment, and set of challenges, making sure to offer a fun and engaging playground for the action every time. With the game's intuitive controls, you have loads of tricks and moves at your disposal, not to mention all the endless combo possibilities ahead of you. By performing trick combos, you can raise your adrenaline meter, which unlocks speed boosts for you at will, or stall your combo meter going down, helping you get those super high scores. Mastering the movement is key to completing all challenges in the game and customizing the character to the style of your liking.
What was that?
Completing challenges in the game makes you earn feathers, which unlock over 100 different customization items for you and your pigeon with the built-in progression system. Oh yeah, you can totally be a pigeon in my game. Think of it as your free cam, your session marker, pin dropper, and most importantly, your
Okay, Google
girlfriend.
Translate.
In each map, you unlock the pigeon by exploring around and finding it. Once you do so, you can switch to the pigeon at any time, fly around, find new challenges, and totally go where you're not supposed to. But that's not all. Parkour is also fun with friends. Play online, hang out in free row multiplayer, or engage in intense games of tag, capture the flag, or tricks battle. And when you're tired, just check out the super cool photo mode, which has the craziest freedom of all, with its highlight feature, the doll mode, and much, much more. With solo progression and multiplayer game modes, 6 unique maps, original in-game music, loads of challenges, endless trick combos, and tons of customization options to unlock, Rooftops and Alleys will have you covered for a long time as soon as the game releases on June 17th.
I need to say something.
Okay.
The cantaloupe. They gotta knock on it lightly.
Yeah, totally. Done. I also do that.
Regional events come together to battle. While the games were announced for a 2005 release, Diamond and Pearl were pushed back to a December 2006 launch in Japan. Despite this, the games shipped with a number of bugs, most notably a glitch where the player could surf on certain tiles and clip through the wall and out of bounds. Crafty players discovered that by moving a certain number of steps while out of bounds and then saving and reloading the game, they could spawn on the overworld in places they weren't supposed to. This allowed them to catch certain mythical Pokemon like Darkrai and Shaman, who were supposed to be locked behind a special Nintendo event. These bugs were removed in the international versions of the games. While all of these areas would be made accessible through Nintendo events, the Hall of Origin, where the player could catch Arceus, was not. The
Alrighty. Sorry about that. I am back.
Wait, remember Jackie Chan Adventures? Growing up, Jackie Chan movies were a huge deal for me, sparking my interest in discovering more and more media outside of the US. Between him and stuff like Godzilla, my world was expanded greatly, and for that, I am forever grateful. His popularity that transitioned over to the US became something else. His stunt work was legendary, his movies had style to them, and he could sing? Alright, so how do we get to the topic of today's video, Jackie Chan Adventures? Well, let's take a look into that as well as the show itself. I feel outside of my memories of watching the show, Jackie Chan Adventures probably does scratch some memory itch for some of you out there as well. If you've been watching my channel for the last few years, you'd know that I actually made a video on Jackie Chan Adventures like literally 3 years ago. But thanks to 2 reasons, that video, it doesn't exist anymore. The first reason is that I felt that I can make a way better video than the one I made back then, and I have wanted to do this for a while now, and 2, this. Thanks, corporate entity. Appreciate you claiming transformative work and fighting me on it. Anyway, pettiness aside, let's try this again, shall we? Actually, pettiness not aside. Hi, even further future me talking to you through this video that I've already had to redo and remake multiple times now. Now, 1 year after this happened and now everything has been resolved, it's not resolved again apparently, and the other video is gone. So here we are again. maybe this is going to become a yearly tradition where it goes down, but then it goes back up, then it goes down, then it goes back up. Either way, I appreciate you watching, and let's just move on. If you never saw the original video, then ignore everything and just enjoy this video. Thank you. If you already watched the old video from all those years ago, then great. This is now a completely different video from that one.
Alright, let's go.
Now, we can't get into Jackie Chan Adventures without talking about Jackie Chan and who he was leading up to the show. I know in recent years there was a lot out there about him and his family stuff and country stuff, and I'm sure way more, but I am not here to dig into the whole personal life of the guy himself. I just want to talk about the core childhood memory that is this show and what it was like watching it at the time, and beyond that, watching it now. Leading up to the year 2000, Jackie Chan was known for blending the worlds of action, insane stunts, and comedy to make so many memorable and iconic moments in live-action films. But as we get to the turn of the century, how can the same style and flair be taken from the third dimension and transformed into the second dimension? Sony Pictures Television, the big old meanies who denied you the right after 3 years to watch the original video, and then just, you know, did so again. I'm getting really tired of this. We're trying to come up with some new show ideas in the year 2000. They needed something new, something fresh, something that was filled with action and adventure, and of course, most importantly, the potential to have a highly successful toy line. We can look to this person right here, Andy Kaplan, the then VP of Sony Pictures Television, who saw all the hubbub about the film Rush Hour, the live-action buddy cop movie starring Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan. So Andy realized something deeper than just that. He saw that there is this whole growing in popularity market for Jackie Chan and his stardom in the US market. And when seeing his career portfolio, all the stuff he has already done, the specific style he brings to his projects, Andy knew there was something that can be done that was centered around this person. Andy then reaches out to Sander Schwartz, the head of family entertainment for Sony, and said, excuse me for paraphrasing here, hey, Jackie Chan, but like in cartoon form. And from there, the idea behind Jackie Chan Adventures was born. Jackie Chan's martial arts skills are going to be at the forefront of this. The plan is to take what we see in his movies that already feel fantastical and put them into a bit more of a fantastical setting. The thing in real life, though, is that Jackie Chan really is doing all of this crazy stuff. Seriously, if you've never seen the long list of ridiculous stunts that he has done himself, you should go watch and be amazed by it all. Heck, it makes me want to get in shape just in case I ever need to perform a stunt like this. And that's why I drink gamer subs. Look, I had to redo the video. Cut me a break, okay? The same way I'm cutting you some deals. You already know I'm using this stuff to keep my energy up when working on the videos in general. So if you both want to try it for yourself and help support the channel, then go ahead and head to GamerSubs through the link in my description, or just by using my code at checkout, code FRINGE. You're gonna get 10% off your order anytime you order from GamerSubs, and you're going to be helping support the channel. So big shout out to GamerSubs for always having my back, and a big shout out to all of you who use my code at GamerSubs, code FRINGE, because you really have my back too, and I appreciate you. And speaking of things we should get back to, but now let's fully get into Jackie Chan Adventures, a series that would take who Jackie Chan was at that time in the public eye, this funny, incredible martial arts performer, and fictionalize him up a bit to fit into the world of a fun cartoon, making his character an archaeologist and later on special agent, as he gets to travel the world to fight the forces of the supernatural with his skills alone, and some other forces and allies that help out too. But no matter how big or small, he gets stuck having to deal with all of the unbelievable stuff that comes his way. He's a character in the show that needs to just accept the reality of magical abilities and forces being real, while most of the world would feel the same as he once did, thinking that they are nothing more than fairy tales, being ignorant to them actually being around. Once he finds this thing called a talisman, and no, we are not talking about Spyro 2 over here, even though I kind of wish we were. It's like my third time talking about Jackie Chan just to have one video up about it. Man, who remembers when I made Spyro content? Those were the days. I mean, they were days, I guess. Maybe I just miss playing Spyro. I'm gonna go play Spyro. The whole setup for where the show takes us opens up, introducing an underground criminal organization who is after the talismans for their mystical powers that they have. While we get to explore all the different layers of everything mythical and mystical, the main lore infused into the show here is pulled directly from Chinese mythology, while also including and expanding this concept from other regions' folklore to give the show something really fun to dig into. I love when shows do this because it led me at those times to really get into the history of where these tales, stories, and ideals all came from that influenced the show. Like, take Yu-Gi-Oh! For example. My love for Egyptian mythology directly correlates with my love for that show, how it introduced those concepts and what it explored with them. When media like this can introduce and possibly influence the interests you want to explore, I think it's great, especially when it hits you at an age where you're in a constant state of learning and wanting to know more. So for that reason alone, Jackie Chan Adventures had my attention from the start. Speaking of Yu-Gi-Oh! Again, one of Jackie
Jackie Chan Adventure's main villains, Valmont, the leader in charge of the crime organization The Dark Hand, is out here looking like Pegasus. Sorry, I just had to mention it. I can never unsee it. The show itself is written and presented as an adventure. There is a through-line narrative going on, so with each episode, the story continues on, giving us more lore to uncover, more daring adventures to go on, and getting to explore a bunch of fun locations around the world. But before we look into the plots and where the show goes, let's look further into the characters, and by doing so, kind of go through bits of the first episode to get a clear picture of it all. Like Jackie Chan himself in the show. Like I said, he's an archaeologist at first, and the way he carries himself is in a more timid and more cautious manner. He's not out there looking for trouble, he doesn't want to get into confrontation, but naturally, with how it all goes, he is forced into this world where his martial arts skills are put to the test on a constant basis, despite being reluctant about it. He is shown right away being a guide through a tomb to get a lost treasure, where we then get to see how good his martial arts abilities are as they are being used to save himself from a bunch of traps that the others with him set off and escape in one piece. But even if he is just this guide here, his unique skills have caught the eyes of both the characters of Captain Black, a secret agent for the secret agency known as Section 13, as well as Valmont, who I mentioned is the leader of the bad guy group, the Dark Hand. We can get more into all of that shortly, but we see in Jackie's life that when it comes to finding certain artifacts, he helps a university understand them and translate whatever needs to be translated as he lives with his uncle at his antique shop in San Francisco. His life is going to get flipped upside down constantly here as we get introduced to another main character of the show, Jade, Jackie's niece, who is presented by Jackie's uncle to him as he is now responsible for looking after her for the next however long.
Oh no, oh my god,
Get the
guys.
most kills and bring home the win. Yeah, nice one.
It's overflowing through me like a flood. That's why they keep reaching out and they keep calling me the blood. Remaining. You win. Turn me up, turn me up, turn me up. Yeah, turn me up.
I have to finish this paper. I'm swamped. No one told me college would be so damp.
Just get Grammarly. It's free.
Can it help with what I wrote last night? It only took 3 coffees and some cheese.
Grammarly will catch all those spelling and grammar errors, and it'll help with the bigger stuff. Like, look, you're being way too casual here, and it's saying that this paragraph needs to be shorter. So then, click, click, you fix it.
Is this why nobody else is stressed about this paper? I thought there was just something in the water.
There is. Grammarly's helped college students and professors for like 15 years. And it even has a plagiarism checker, which you should use.
Oh yeah, good call. Forgot to cite that bit.
Grammarly can also give you ideas to make your writing better. Add more background, add specific examples, focus your conclusion.
Wow, this sounds like me, but better. A less damp me.
Victory looks good on you. And smells better.
You think a less damp me could get that internship?
Jade is 12 years old and sent to live with Jackie in America
Oh,
after
thanks
she
for
was doing
lights.
poorly in
Appreciate
school
that.
there, and her parents thought she would be able to do better in America. She's very much the bigger than her britches type when it comes to getting involved in all of the adventures Jackie is going to start going on. Whether Jackie likes it or not, which he doesn't most times, Jade is coming along and is constantly involved in whatever is going on. When we first meet her, she's pretty over it all, you know, everything's a drag. She doesn't want to be here and there's nothing that Jackie can do to have a proper conversation with her. Luckily, this all changes pretty quickly on thanks to how the plot continues in the first episode, with these three sketchy looking dudes, who I will mention later on, come walking into the store looking to buy the same shield that Jackie had just secured. He susses them out and can tell that these people are pretty shady, but lets them know that the shield has already been donated to the university and
Thank you very much.
Sale,
Appreciate
making
that.
them mad, naturally.
Roxanne?
They begin to start knocking
Really?
over some very breakable antiques that then Jackie goes and quickly blows their minds with, as he effortlessly rolls around and flips about the place to save them all and act like what he did was normal. Regardless, they make their point that it would be in his and his family's best interest to somehow undonate the shield in 24 hours so that these guys can have it, leaving Jackie and Jade both experiencing the threat of whoever these people are or who they're working for. Jackie, though, goes all Assassin's Creed and starts tailing them as they leave, parkouring up to the roofs of the buildings until he ends up comedically crashing onto their car and starting a real conflict with these people. Jackie shows off his playful defensive fighting style while being a bit of a goofball, but these guys aren't playing around, pulling out some electric swords, leading to Jackie having to use the tools of his environment around him to fend them off, like windshield wipers and various playground equipment, before they've had enough and run away. But this is where the plot really gets going, as Jade is shown to have followed and have witnessed this whole thing, being in a state of shock. But before any of that is explored, that Captain Blackfella shows up and sprays Jackie with a mist that makes him go unconscious. After he starts waking back up, he recognizes Captain Black, as they have known each other for quite some time, as Jackie gets the surprise of being brought to the secret headquarters of Captain Black's operation as he runs Section 13. Once he brings the shield up to Jackie, he learns about the others who are after it as well, giving Jackie a bit of a rundown on why everybody is after it and who the bad guys who came into his uncle's shop work under, that being the Dark Hand. We then cut over to them as we see Valmont learning of his henchmen, here being the three that we saw earlier, Finn, Ratso, and Chow, all being defeated by Jackie, as we also meet Toru, who will become more and more important as the show goes on, as well as we meet Shendu, who currently is this talking dragon or serpent-like statue with a number of empty slots where certain items may need to be placed. Now that the more important members of the group are all established, we get to see what would be considered enemy fodder, the nameless, faceless bad guys who just get sent out to fight and only serve that purpose, at least for now, as they are known as the Shadowcon. They are spirit ninjas that form in from the shadows to aid in the bad guys' plans. As the bad guy plot is getting set up, Jackie gets asked to aid in Section 13's research into these specific artifacts, as this then gets interrupted by Jade, who tailed where Jackie was taken and tries breaking him out before realizing that these are the good guys. She actually ends up talking here, surprising Jackie, but even more so, this whole thing is a huge surprise for Jade, thinking all of this is so cool and that America is going to be awesome now. Uncle then gives a call, giving Jackie no breaks from so much information coming his way, as Uncle explains that the symbols on the shield wield some sort of magical aura to them, but the shield itself isn't important, confusing Jackie. But before Uncle could explain further, he is taken by Toru, who tells Jackie to come alone with the shield to get his uncle back. Of course, he does have help looking for where the shield is, because Jade didn't listen to Jackie's request of her staying with Captain Black or just going off to her room, but to be fair, she's the one who finds the shield. She really wants to be part of whatever is going on, being hooked on the excitement of it all and what that brings, while Jackie is just having a bad day full of fights, being chased, getting knocked out, getting info dumped on, tangled up in a fight against organized crime, getting his uncle kidnapped, and now, apparently, there's magic involved. You can add dealing with Jade to that list as well, as we get the most iconic line from her that ever since I saw it as a kid has been stuck in my brain. She still follows Jackie to the secret location he has to go to get his uncle back, as he tells her to stay put and not follow him in, as she says, "Scout's honor," waiting for Jackie to leave before she mutters to herself, "Psh, like I'm a scout." And I remember having a whole phase of making that a joke when I'd say I'd do something. Was it cringy for me to do that? Yes. Would I still do it today? Also yes. But I will spare all of you. I won't do it in this video. Scout's honor. Like I'm a scout. But literally right away when Jackie goes to confront Toru on the roof, Jade follows him and he has her help rescue his uncle when Jackie distracts Toru. So I guess it's a good thing she was there after all. But we do get into this really fun fight scene where Jackie has to face the Shadowcon, defensively dealing with them on the roof of the building as his uncle and Jade make their way to the road below to catch the shield after Jackie tosses it down to them when he's cornered. But then Toru shows up to them and takes the shield, leaving the area with the Shadowcon following suit, seeming like whatever mission mission this was is now considered a failure. Captain Black comes back to see if Jackie will join them, as well as apologizes for getting his family involved. But overall, Jackie's just kind of upset at the shield being taken. But luckily, Uncle says that the shield isn't important, but it's what was in the middle of the shield that was. And that would be the talisman, this apparent magical emblem that will become the main thing we worry about from this point on. Jade then reveals she ended up yanking the talisman off the shield before it was taken away, feeling pretty cocky about her accomplishment, and that's no pun intended because there is a rooster on the talisman. Yeah, so this is what was important here, as when Toru returns to Valmont and Shendu, they are instantly disappointed that the talisman is missing. We also get a one more thing from Uncle at the end, and that's his character's signature catchphrase. Well, it's not really a catchphrase, but rather something he just says because everyone always tries to end the conversation before he can finish saying everything he needs to say most times, or he's just trolling them a bit, but he adds on at the end that the symbol on the talisman is the rooster from the Chinese zodiac, explaining then that there are 11 more talismans that go along with it. Captain Black then understands that the Dark Hand will certainly be after the other ones as well, as Jade says that Jackie is in for helping Captain Black in Section 13 in the efforts to track them down and stop the Dark Hand from getting their hands on them. Jackie just smiles and goes along with it, knowing that Jade is going to be quite a handful to watch over and is now going to be tangled into all of this secret organization business. But to be fair, she did really save the day here multiple times, finding the shield, rescuing Uncle, saving the talisman. I mean, that's a pretty good resume for being Jackie's sidekick in all of this.
Jackie Chan Adventures jumps in first at 3.
Game of Thrones King's Road. Download now.
Choosing where to use Old Spice Total Body Deodorant can be challenging since you can put it everywhere. That's why I use this trusty wheel to decide. I'll just use it everywhere.
At the end of an episode, though, we do get something a bit extra as well, and that's a special live-action segment with Jackie Chan where we would meet up with him while he's practicing his martial arts, with a viewer of the show asking him a question that he would then directly respond to. These moments would be in relation to him as a person, as well as certain specific things in the show that can relate back to Chinese history, culture, and philosophy. Or he could just do some rad martial arts or stunts. This was a cool way to introduce the real Jackie Chan to younger audiences, giving them a way to understand and see and learn about the man behind the cartoon character here. Aside from seeing his live-action self turn into his cartoon self in the intro, it was these ending moments where you really got to connect with Jackie, learn more about the lore within the show, and maybe even get a push to see more of his other work. Now, Jackie Chan was clearly a big part of the production here, right? He appears in live action, his name is 2 out of the 3 words in the title, and he was, of course, an executive producer for it. But what he didn't do was voice his cartoon self. No, in fact, James C. would go on to be Jackie's animated voice. There are a few reasons that may explain why Jackie didn't end up voicing himself in the show, but James would be known as a Jackie Chan impersonator, which isn't solely fair to just classify him as that based on a long list of roles that he has had throughout his career, but James would go on to voice Jackie Chan's role of Master Monkey in the Kung Fu Panda series when it came to the Legends of Awesome TV show and the video games. I love that for people who don't know that Jackie didn't voice himself, and then they find out, they usually have a reaction that leaves them in disbelief, because until having easier and easier access to information like that to learn, the average fan of the show would never know, unless you watch the credits. But come on, most times on kids networks, the show's credits would shrink to a small corner of the 4:3 aspect ratio, while some ad bumper for the network or what's playing next would pop up to take your attention away from it. But the series does a really good job at keeping your attention beyond just watching for the fun action, as the stories or adventures themselves are a lot of fun with plot lines and lore that really shine bright here. The main thing we start off dealing with in the series are the talismans, to which we know that there are 12 of them, as they each resemble an animal from the Chinese zodiac. The Dark Hand is after them mainly for the power of Shendu, who, if you recall, had all of these slots for items across the statue. If Shendu is reunited with all of the talismans, it will set him free from the stone prison he is in. Now, let's hope that never happens, right? Either way, the talismans have these magical abilities. It's what episode 1 was teasing the entire time, and come episode 2, Jade ends up showing everyone that these abilities are real after accidentally inhaling it. So when the Dark Hand want to get the talisman, threatening her life, we see that she gets the use of levitation and telekinesis. So throughout the first season and a few episodes of the second season that technically came out after the big event at the end of season 1, but technically take place before it, the hunt to get the talismans is on, as we get to see adventures all around the world, seeing the different powers that they have in action. Some of these buff unlocks are super speed, super strength, invisibility, immortality, shapeshifting, and more. Each of these always offer a fun way to explore the powers granted throughout an episode with whoever activates it first. Spoiler alert, Shendu does get all of the talismans entered into his statue by the end of the first season, leading to big world-ending stakes as he becomes a full-on dragon again. But of course, there are still 4 other seasons of the show, meaning that there are different conflicts and adventures to go on aside from just this beginning Shendu arc. But to be fair, he's not really going anywhere. Season 2 continues where things had left off as we get into this Demon Portals arc, where we even have this new device, which is called the Penku Box, as it acts as a key to open these demon portals to the Netherworld, where all of these different elemental demons reside and want to enter into the real world to rule it. We also get the introduction of another character that becomes a side villain during this season, but has an expanded role in the next, named Daolon Wong. I think the biggest takeaway from this season is seeing the character of Toru switching sides at the end of season 1 and going into season 2, choosing to help Jackie in Section 13 as he turns himself in. From this point, Jackie, Jade, Uncle, and Section 13 all embrace the big ol' sweetheart that Toru really is. I mean, he becomes such a great asset and character the more we truly get to know him, and it's okay
Toru's one of
the
my
bad
favorite.
guys get a replacement for him in Hakfu. So there's that. That Daolon Wong fella ends up wanting season 3 to feel like season 1, as the goal is the same when it comes to getting the talismans. Only now, it's a race between the good guys and the bad guys to get the matching notable animals that recently inherited the abilities of their ancestors after Jackie tried to destroy the talismans themselves. It instead just released out the powers of each across the globe. If you were tired of traveling the globe so much, get ready to do it some more, as season 4 follows a similar pattern. Only instead of talismans being scattered around the world, it's now these special masks, as they are each able to control a specific tribe of Shadowkhan, as this season focuses more on the lore behind those cool shadow spirit ninjas. Thanks to a summoning spell not going the way it was intended by the villain of the last season, we get introduced to Terakudo, who is the king of the Shadowkhan. He is represented as this mask and wants to get the other masks that are out there, as they are all his fellow generals who control all the different tribes of Shadowkhan. This season does get pretty freaky with the visuals thanks to the masks, but at least it still finds a way to make things a bit different and interesting despite being such a similar concept to the previous seasons. Plus, this goes a bit into Japanese folklore thanks to the Oni. It's pretty cool and genuinely interesting stuff to learn about and explore. The 5th and final season of the show focuses on Drago, Shendu's son, who is after the remnants of demonic chi from all those demons that we dealt with in the 2nd season in order to basically do what his dad wanted to do. And this brings in another device called the Chi-O-Matic, which is supposed to help detect and collect demonic chi from the sorcerers, all leading to a pretty spectacular 2-part ending to the series in general, giving us a chance to see the growth and maturity that Jade has found throughout the 5 seasons, going from a bit of an unpredictable troublemaker to a true warrior with a lot of wisdom, and not just because she officially is some sort of scout at some point. Some more bad guys become good guys, and we also get some good father and son infighting through Shendu and Drago's relationship. As far as everyone else, everyone gets a place where they belong for a happy and pretty finite ending to the series that feels both satisfying and well earned. What I do love is that all of the main good guys get more and more stuff to do each season, whether it's Jade getting more more involved in dangerous situations that prove how tough she is and what powers she herself can wield, or even Uncle, who really can do more than just provide some information on artifacts or spout off one more thing every other sentence, working on chi spells with Toru. It's all really great and comes in handy, especially towards the end of the series. I also love all of the extra supporting characters we get as reoccurring roles within each season, like Viper, who fills the role of someone that Jade looks up to, and for Jackie to knowingly or unknowingly be flirting with, or be flirted on by. But she's in this middle ground of having enough of a moral compass to eventually be doing only good, but also did have a life of crime as being a talented thief. There's El Toro, a masked wrestler who originally is introduced as having the Ox Talisman, along with his fan, but later turned apprentice, Paco. And who could forget the most important character of all, Super Moose, a stuffed animal that can be brought to life thanks to the Rat Talisman. In the end, Jackie Chan Adventures wound up becoming pretty successful and mostly well received, as it would be ranked as one of the best kid shows for the network that it was airing on. It would expand beyond the show and into avenues like having a comic book series, a regular book series, some video games, trading cards, and of course a toy line, the hopeful bread and butter of any show coming out around this time. When the show started coming together, the only real concept was, hey, what if Jackie Chan had a cartoon about him? There was no tangible plan for what to do or where to go. No plot, no characters, and no setting for the show to take place. Sanders Schwartz wanted this information when Andy Kaplan brought it to him, but that falls into the category of, well, too bad. As Andy said to him, well, you're the head of animation, you figure it out. So figure it out is exactly what he did, minus the slime in Summer Sanders. So where did he start? Well, much like every episode of Pawn Stars, he knows a guy, with that guy being John Rogers, a veteran screenwriter, comedian, and most importantly, a fan of Jackie Chan. John would start leading the direction of what the show could be, bringing on more and more fans of Jackie Chan's work to be a part of the production. It's pretty smart thinking.
I'll finish the rest
design a cartoon all
later
about
on.
Jackie Chan.
I'm gonna call it a night. Thanks for watching and thanks for the follow. Appreciate that. Alright. See you guys in the next stream. Bye. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Alright, see you guys in the next stream. Bye.